that means recording. The community has to approve the voting members. And then once they're approved, then they can choose any one of those positions. And so luckily this year we had basically 3 people who were approved, so we had 3 positions open. So that's really easy. When we have more than 3 people, then we have to, kind of whittle it down from there. Yeah. So the next thing is we have to review and adopt the SAC bylaws. And so in your fancy packet that Marie has made for you, it's kind of at the very back, it's the bylaws. And so if you have some difficulty sleeping at night, or you feel as though you're not well read on those things, then you can read those at your leisure. Nothing has changed. I just printed these out today, and I think it was 2016 was the last time they had it changed. But we typically try to review those. And so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer it, or you can just read that on your own leisure. I hate to waste people's time, but if you really like to go over it, we can.
So sorry. Angela is going to do president, and now she's going to be vice president, because Lisa's going to be texting me tomorrow asking me that.
And I'll put it on the district page as well.
Okay.
So Angela has been president before, or chair before. Yeah. So it's all good. All right. So from there, I am going to present because now we're going on to the update. And so let me present really quickly. All right. So here is our here's our presentation. So thank you for those of you who were not here the first time around. Welcome. For those of you who were here the first time, I'm sorry. So how we are sitting currently. So if you are not familiar with how we are funded, is we get our budgets every January, which then is approved every February. And so they give us a projected enrollment number, and that's what we are funded for. So our current funding, we roughly get around $9,500 per student. And so they give us that number based on an algorithm that the district has. And so last year we were projected to have 500, well, I should say last year, our budget this year is 514 students. And so when October count hits, which is actually this week, then that becomes our official number. So if we are over 514, the district then pays us per student. If we are under that number, then we have to pay that money back. So it's kind of a strange funding scenario for us. This year, we are currently sitting at 485 students. That was as of this morning. And we are 26 kids under enrollment. Luckily for us, we don't have to pay $9,500 back to the district. We have to pay, it's roughly $4,500 back. And then we get a 3-person grace period. And so currently, as of this morning, we owe $119,132. So this is not my first problem. And so I always make sure that I budget things according to what I call butts in the seats. And so I keep money in reserve. So if we are under, we have money to fund that. So we don't ever go into the red and, it's bad news. And so I have the money saved for us. I just don't ever like giving money back to the district at the end of the financial cycle. It's kind of it's a hard check. They just wipe it out of your budget. It hurts my heart a little bit. Now, October count is all this week. And so we have some students that just arrived the last couple of days. And so I think we're going to finish out roughly maybe 487, 48. Our target goal is always 490. I was hoping to get there, but I don't think we will by the end of this week. It depends on how fast we can get some kids registered. And so then any student that comes after October count, we get no funding for. We have to take them in, but we just don't get any money for them, which is always super challenging. So, and that obviously every time that we get more students, then that 119, 132 decreases. Okay. Any questions on how we are funded?
So, but you feel okay giving that back? I mean, not okay, but you're not going to have to reduce any staff?
No. In fact, okay. Yeah. In fact, we had to do some financial wizardry to get to where we were. For those of you who remember back in August, and Mrs. Tooley really remembers that we, at one point, needed a 4th section of kindergarten, but we we had, we cannot have 27 kids in a kindergarten class. I think anybody who's a kindergarten parent knows that's impossible. So we had to move some staff members around to create that position, but that left our sixth grade team with only 2 teachers, and they're sitting at 32 kids a class, and that's not fair to them either. And one of our, big priorities has always been low class size. And so we moved a bunch of money around, and we talked to a teacher who was a classified member of our staff. And so I said, we just did some financial wizardry, and she decided to take on that role. And so she literally started the day of school started and just jumped right in, and it's been going ever since. So that's why we have 3 sections. And so that's why we had to do some moving around. That's why we tried to get to
Yeah,
490.
saying that, just making sure like now that we're having to give this back, everything is still.
Yeah, we'd love to have more money. We could always use an extra EA1 or some extra supports here and there. But, as long as we have our low class size and as long as we are able to get all the things done that we need to do, we should be all right. Yeah. And then part of my plan too is to always, we haven't asked PSP for hardly any money for the last few years in anticipation if we ever needed a large chunk of some money or needed to pay for something that they could support us with that. So that's always been my plan.
And that was put in our goals this year.
Yep, that's correct. All right, so for the 2022-2023 school year, we've decided on 3 goals. The first goal is to reduce our number of read plans. So for those of you who are not familiar, if students are coming in below grade level, then they are placed on a read plan. Typically, it's our students are placed on very early in their career, so we can start to formulate plans. And so we have a high number of read plans, given the fact that we are a very impacted school. So our goal is to try to exit 7 intermediate students by the spring of 2023. So it's very easy to get on a read plan, and it's very hard to get off a read plan. And we'd love it if all of our students, as they leave Cherokee Trail, leave their read plans behind. And so that's our goal for this year. And that also aligns with the district goal of literacy. Literacy is one of the big rocks in the district. So in the middle goal there is a data-informed PLC. So our PLC is our professional learning communities. And the purpose of those is to essentially analyze student data and then plan ahead to make sure students are supported. And so the reason why I don't have an assistant principal is so then we can provide our students with double specials. So that gives them 80 minutes, 3 days a week to be able to plan effectively. So we take one of those 80-minute time frames, and Ashley and I sit down with every single team, and then we essentially look at where the students are, and then we plan ahead. Where do we want them to go? How are we going to get there? What are we going to do if they know it? What are we going to do if they don't know it? And then plan around those pieces. And we do that every single week, and it's a continuous cycle. We also do it for our professional development. We implemented Benchmark Advance as our literacy framework last year. We are continuing that this year. We also work around our replans. We have a national trainer coming in actually tomorrow with Benchmark to work with our staff during the day. And so those are the different things that we do during the day. So the second half of that is 80% of our staff will meet their Site 6 goal. And so our staff is all evaluated on 6 standards. Standard 1 through 5 is culture and climate, professionalism, planning, instruction, and assessment. That's kind of half the pie. The other half of the pie is what's called Site 6, or the 6th standard, which is student performance goals. And so the students are expected to meet, obviously, their targets. It's kind of a year's growth, basically, for lack of a better term. And so all of our teachers are using that data from their PLCs to then plan for student achievement. So then they make goals at the beginning of the year, and then they work on those goals all year. So by the end of the year, they have met their goals. So their students have made essentially a year's growth. Okay. And that goes along with our district priority of making sure that each one of our buildings has PLCs. And then the last one is complete classroom at 80 training. So we realized last year that we are obviously a very impacted school, and our students are coming off a pandemic. We saw lots of students coming in last year that just really struggled at home. We're just involved in just so many different things. And so a lot of our teachers were not prepared for that. It's different than they went to school for. They weren't prepared for kids coming off of pandemic, and they had to, they were not trained to teach kids like how to talk to each other and how to interact with other adults and how to interact with other kids and all those interpersonal problems. And so we are working on that now. We'll finish Classroom 180 in January. It's basically trauma-informed practice. And so every Friday we've been doing it, and then during all our professional development days, we're doing it. And then our goal is 100% of our staff will utilize 2 strategies they learn from Classroom 180 to support our kids. And so we've asked every single teacher in our building to pick one of their at-risk students and then use the strategies they learned from Classroom 180 to support that student throughout the year. And so that's been our goal. And we said we have one of the highest populations of at-risk students in the district. And so that's a good benefit. And again, it also helps our teachers help the students who need us most. Does that make sense?
How long is that 180 training?
It is roughly maybe 15 total hours. And so we did a
they
big,
like it?
yes and no. I don't think they like they like the message. They don't like the delivery.
Yeah.
And so it's basically kind of like a sit and get. And so we got it for free, and we have it free until December. And so we've made them come in every Friday for their staff meeting to do it. And then they kind of sit and they listen, and then they have to do some reflective pieces. So they definitely like the message, and they definitely like the classroom 180, but they do not like the message. They don't like to sit and watch a video. They want to talk to each other. They want to interact.
We do it every Friday, and we do it on a fresh one. I'm like,
yeah.
What are you doing to them?
Yeah, we're trying to hammer it in because once December hits, we don't have it for free anymore.
And they will get relicensure credit.
And they get
for their
relicensure
teaching
credit.
licenses because it's an accredited course.
Oh,
So that
okay.
is at
That's
least
nice.
like one tangible thing.
Yeah.
Plus the
That is good.
Yeah, they are excited. Again, they're excited to be able to use the strategies involved. Again, they just don't like the application. They're teachers, and they don't want to just sit there and listen to it.
Yeah.
Which is why they don't show up to this either.
What factors determine an at-risk student?
At-risk student is a student that qualifies for free or reduced lunch would be one factor. Another factor is just struggles is below grade level. Another factor just may be family dynamic. We've got students who are considered homeless. So for example, if you have a family who is living with their aunt or uncle, then they're considered homeless. And so those are all fall into those categories.
And then what about a read plan? What determines whether a student?
I'll let you explain that because you can do it so much better than I can.
Yes, the state of Colorado sets the criteria for determining whether or not a student is placed on a read plan, and they set the criteria for what a school can use to exit a read plan.
Mhm.
So essentially, there's a bank of approved assessments that each district selects, and so our district has selected iReady. And so students who score below the state cut score essentially are placed onto a read plan at different points in the year. And so the cuts are determined on which testing window the student tested in and what their score was. And so that's how a student is placed on a read plan. And to be exited, they have to have a body of evidence showing that they are at grade level. And it's pretty difficult. I mean, they have to have multiple measures over time to show that they truly are ready to kind of be released from this extra reading support and function at grade level moving forward. So it's a state thing across the district.
And that's non-IEP students in that?
It is IEP students as
It
well.
is IEP students as well. Okay.
Well, they could be on a read plan and not an IEP,
Right.
or they could be on
Either
both.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many kids did you say we have on a read plan?
We had at the end of last year, we had 130.
So just curious why you chose 7. Like, is it a percentage or
We wanted, because it's really hard to get the kids off.
no? Yeah.
If you want to be really honest, my daughter was born on July 7th of 2007. So we thought, well, try 7. 777's her birthday. So that's how we actually came up with the number 7. But last year, I said we exited 4. And we were pretty pleased about that. So we decided to go 7.
And it's typically 3 or 4 students a year, historically, at least the last 5 years that we've exited off of a read plan. So if we could double that, and given that we have like a more robust, reading program right now, we have 2 reading interventionists, we have 2 primary reading interventionists, we've just really kind of like amped the support we were able to provide students. And so we really feel like, okay, let's like raise that goal.
Right.
Do the reading interventionists keep track of that data?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's what we are funneling our money to support our students. And so when you see that, if we're behind on things, I said, we feel like extra admin is a waste, in my opinion. Which is, again, goes back to that's why we don't have one AP. And so Ashley is half gifted and talented facilitator because, again, it's more kid facing. So we have 2 full-time interventionists. We utilize our STEAM teacher also does math interventions on Mondays and Fridays. Mrs. Dunker, who's in this room, she does wellness Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but then she also meets with families who are below grade level. What else do we have?
Reading interventionists.
We have 2, it's called reading recovery, but you can't say that anymore. So they're also literacy, but they have specialized training in reading recovery, and they meet with the lowest students in first. And then they take those one-on-one, and then they also meet with the lowest performing students, and this is only in reading, and meet with them in a group. And then they also branch out to kindergarten and second. And then we try to flood as many resources as we can into the primary grades because then that benefits longest. And then we also made sure that every single one of our kindergarten classes and every single one of our first grade classes have a dedicated EA for their literacy block. And so there's multiple adults in there just to support our kids.
And then we also have what we call stallion time, which is a
Correct.
30-minute intervention block each day where students, that's when they're receiving these interventions. And that's to ensure that they're not missing universal instruction because research tells us that that's critical, right? Even if you're a below level kid, you need access to grade level instruction all the time too.
Yep. So when you hear your kids are study time, all of our gifted and talented teacher comes in, and then our SPED providers come in. They all just flood into the grade level, and they pull a bunch of kids out. And then the classroom teacher sometimes has as little as 5, and they could have as many as 10. And then they basically can work with those kids who aren't pulled in a smaller grade level. It's half hour every single day. We try.
The READ Act is really specific.
Yes.
Teachers have to progress monitor read plans. There's certain data that has to be rolled up to the district that the district has to roll up to the state. It's a very tight system and a lot of compliance pieces. Valerie Holmes is our site READ Act coordinator, and she's also one of our reading interventionists. And so she makes sure that we are in compliance with our district and state around that.
When I do read students on read plans also have an IEP, what's the purpose of having them both? Because isn't that data already being tracked on the IEP?
Yes, but sometimes students only have goals in math, or
Sure,
sometimes the
okay.
other pieces, and so it's just another layer of support. Yeah. All right. So from there,
Hold on real quick. You
Oh.
said the Site 6 goals. You said you're meeting with the teachers every week?
we meet with every single classroom teacher every week during their PLCs. But then we also are meeting with every one of our non-classroom teachers as well, has to have student performance data, or that Site 6. And so we are asking them to do 2 things. So each one of our teachers, including specials teachers, so like Mrs. Whittingham, they all have to choose a student to do the wraparound support for at-risk students. And then they have to come up with some sort of assessment tool to make sure that they are providing students 1 year's growth.
But you personally are meeting with them every week? Have you always done that?
We started our PLCs 2 years ago, and so we've done it. Yeah, so we meet with the teams. So our day is Wednesday, and so I basically just kind of clear my calendar, and we all meet together, and it's
The
we
second specials that we have.
Yeah.
They come in to my mobile for, what is it, 30 minutes?
theirs is different because they're departmentalized. Most of our classrooms are 80-minute. These guys, their time's split up. But it's
And then we have another from 12:10 to 12:50 when our kids are at specials.
And do you like it? Does it feel like support?
Oh,
Or like,
yeah. The
oh,
one,
great, the
the one
boss is
that I
coming to
really,
talk
so
to us.
when you were talking about, she had us choose a grade level standard in our, my area is math and science. So I chose one of the standards of 6th grade, which was adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. And so I've just been hammering the kids, every day we do just 5 questions, warm up. I grade them every day, and then I can give them feedback every day. And then at stallion time, I pull those kids that are not getting them done or not doing well when they're doing them, and catch real common mistakes, where they're forgetting to put their placeholder, or they're, not lining them up right, so they're getting them wrong. So then I just go through and I have a whiteboard. I do it, they do it along with me. They're like, oh, that's where I went wrong.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful for
And
me.
then she brings her data back to PLC and we look at, kind of analyze what she's done, and she makes plans again. And so it's just that continuous cycle that was just like that. We hope it has real life practice back in the classroom.
So we also flip-flop too, because we've got quite a few students who are above grade level. And so what we've done is we've banded our blocks together with our master schedule. So for example, kindergarten 1 had the exact same literacy block, 2nd and 3rd have the exact same literacy block. So some of you who've been here for a long time notice that we flipped 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th lunch. So that way we could have a longer block. And so kids who are above grade level, like right now we have a 1st grade student that then flexes up to 2nd grade during their literacy time. And we have our math block. So basically our entire school stops at 1 o'clock and everybody in the building is doing math. And so that way we've got students can then jump up, and some, we might have to be jumping multiple grade levels at some point, but students have that ability. So we've got some kindergartners that are going to trek their way up to 1st grade. We've got 1st graders that trek their way up into 2nd grade. So they're getting the grade level support that they need.
And I've got 2 5th graders in my highest 6th grade math class. They come every day at 2 o'clock.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah. Our goal is always that it's our kids. It's our kids. It's not, Miss Tooley's kids or, Mr. Major's kids. It's our kids. So they see them. Like I said, our kids are moving all over the place. it's way different than the COVID days. We couldn't do anything. All right. So there's any other questions on that? All right. So from here, our district is going for an MLO and bond. I explained it a little bit, but actually, Superintendent Kane does a much better job than I do. It's a short video that she does. And so we've been asked to present this out. So she actually does a pretty good job.
Hello, my name is Erin Kane, and I have the great privilege of serving as the superintendent of Douglas County Schools. Did you know that Douglas County is almost the size of Rhode Island? It consists of so much land mass. We have 89 schools in Douglas County. Our school district collects over $640 million a year in revenue to take care of the 64,000 students that are enrolled in our school district. We also have 8,600 employees. That makes Douglas County School District the largest employer in Douglas County. So let's talk about how our schools are funded here in Douglas County.
When our property taxes go up, that means more funding for the schools, right?
That is actually not the case with the school district. The state legislature determines how much funding each school district in Colorado receives each year. Think of that amount as our bucket. Our bucket is filled with local tax dollars first. And then the state general fund, which is income taxes and sales taxes, comes in to fill in the difference to get us to the top of the bucket. If we collect more money locally because Douglas County is thriving, that bucket is filled with more local dollars, but less state dollars. The size of the bucket does not change.
Is there anything we can do to make the bucket larger?
Well, under the law, you can change the size of your bucket through a mill levy override. You are allowed to ask your local taxpayers for a mill levy override that increases your bucket size up to 25%. We have a mill levy override here in Douglas County already for schools, thanks to our taxpayers, that make up about 12% of our funding. So if you take Cherry Creek School District, for example, that's where we lose a lot of our educators to. Their bucket size has been increased to that full 25%. With ours sitting at 12%, it's a difference of about $94 million. So it is really hard for us to be able to pay our teachers competitively. And in fact, we aren't able to pay our teachers competitively. Our teachers on average make about $18,000 a year, less than, for example, Cherry Creek School District. And it isn't just our teachers. We're struggling to pay all of our employees competitively. We're struggling to pay our education assistants. They can make significantly more if they go work at Chick-fil-A. We're struggling to pay our campus security specialists and many of the other support staff that make the work that our teachers and staff do for children every single day possible.
That makes sense. But what about the buildings?
With 111 buildings, our capital maintenance costs are around $20 to $30 million a year. Many of us have been in Douglas County for a very long time. When I moved here, it was certainly my hope that the community that I moved in would have a neighborhood elementary school that my children could walk to, and that the neighbors' children could walk to, and that be an anchor in our community. It's very reasonable for people who are moving into the Canyons, or Sterling Ranch, or Crystal Valley, for example, to have that same expectation. We need to build new elementary schools to accommodate this growth. We also need to maintain the 111 buildings that we are responsible for. And the way we need to do that is through local bond elections.
What do you do with the money you already have?
We spend 83% of our revenue dollars on our people, salary, benefits, etc.
What about all the central administration costs?
We actually have an incredibly lean administration in Douglas County School District. For example, Douglas County School District's Human Resources Department employs 23 human resources professionals to care for the needs of our 8,600 employees. That's a ratio of one human resources professional to 370 employees. Other major school districts around the metro area have a ratio that represents twice as many HR professionals per employee. So we are running a very lean operation in trying to make sure that we focus all of our energy on our schools and on our children.
How will this affect my property taxes?
Well, if a $60 million MLO and a $450 million bond are passed, the impact to each taxpayer would be $1 a week per $100,000 in home value. So if you have a $500,000 home, for example, the impact would be $5 a week. If you have $1 million home, the impact would be $10 a week on each homeowner.
What about the 2018 bond and mill? Where did all that money go?
We are really grateful for the mill levy override that passed 4 years ago in 2018. That mill levy override helped us put more counselors in our buildings and helped us resolve some of the internal pay gaps that we've experienced. We're also really grateful for the bond that was passed 4 years ago. That bond allowed us to be able to resolve capital maintenance issues that had been accruing over a decade in our district, but we still have that $20 to $30 million a year going forward in capital needs. In my mind, Douglas County is one big family. And at the end of the day, we need to decide what it is that we want for our children and how we want to make sure that we provide that for our children. Thank you so much for your attention today. Hello, my name is Erin Kane.
All right, definitely don't watch that twice. All right, so UIP, which is what's called the Unified Improvement Plan. And so we are asked to submit that every year unless we are a performance school. We are a performance school, so we did not do that last year. In fact, the last one we did was a 2018-2019 school year. And so if you just bear with me, I will essentially show it to you. So this is what I have to submit in a couple weeks. And so essentially what our UIP is what's called the Unified Improvement Plan. And so for us, we are a performance school. And so the requirements around this are pretty loose and not very well monitored. If we are below a priority school, then we would really have to focus on our priority performance challenges. We'd really have to determine what our root cause are and really come up with some very solid major improvement strategies. Because if you're below that performance school, you're considered a turnaround school, which then the clock starts ticking with the state. So if you follow the news at all, especially the education world, Adams 14 has been a turnaround school. So they're fighting back and forth with what's called accreditation. So their district lost their accreditation because they had too many schools that were in turnaround and they didn't meet all those different goals. And so this is what our UIP looks like. And so right here, I've identified two priority challenges. Number one is that we need to increase our academic growth in math, and I'll show you what the data looks like here in a little bit. And the second one is increase our academic achievement scores in ELA. So CMAS looks at two different areas, growth and achievement. How are we doing overall as a school, and how are we growing? And so if you think about it as kind of a 4-quadrant, you can have the upper right-hand quadrant be high growth, high achievement. Upper left-hand quadrant would be high achievement, low growth. Bottom left, low growth, low achievement. Bottom right, high growth, low achievement. So we want to try to be as much as we can in the upper right-hand corner. So the root causes for some of our data that we'll look at in a second was lack of focused math instruction, and I'll explain that a little bit further. And then with our achievement, we want to make sure that we are continuing the growth that we saw. So this says year 2 of benchmark advance. And so our improvement strategies is a refocus on our universal math instruction, and then again, moving on with year 2 of benchmark advance. And so if you really want to, I could break this down. I can show you different things, but I made a little easier PowerPoint presentation so you guys can see it a little bit better. So essentially you can see it's ready to submit. I worked on this the other day, so it's pretty straightforward. So let me go back here and I'll explain that a little bit further around our data. I try to make some jokes. It's just not that funny. All right. So CMAS, we talked about achievement. And so looking at this graph here, you can't really see it super well, but this is the 2019 school year. So this is the last time that our students took a full battery of CMAS tests. Then the following year, something happened, I'm not sure what, but we didn't take any CMAS testing here. We kind of left on spring break and never came back again. And then this was 2 years ago. When you remember, we did kind of an alternate. So half the school took ELA and then half the school took math. And for those of you who don't have kids that are old enough, then it's, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders take these tests. And then this was last year, once again, we took the full battery for the first time since 2019. And so kind of the lens to look through, I explained the same thing to PSP. It's really difficult to compare these together because they're two completely different tests. And then it's really difficult to compare here because the majority of these kids aren't even here anymore. And so what we've told our staff that this 22 line graph here is really our baseline. This is where we're starting from this year. And so that's kind of what we're basing everything off of, and we're setting our targets from there. And so you can see the state average is down here in purple, so we kind of blew that out of the water. Green is meets, and so you can see that we are above the green line. Yellow is approaching. When you get below down here in this line here, that's when things get rough for your school. You really have to have a rock solid UIP. The state, you have to work very closely with the state to make sure you have your goals set. And then up here where the big boys play, that succeeds. That's always our goal, is to try to get to that point. And so you can see we did move up our math achievement. And so this is 740.9 and this is 744.7. So we went from a 79.2 to an 84. So that's pretty good. But if you look back over here, you can see at 742.3, this number on the side here, this is participation. And so we only had 84% of our students participate. We're back here, we had 94%. And so on all of our designations, we are a performance school, but it's low participation. And we'll probably always be that. We have lots of some of our students who are highly impacted opt out of those testing, and so we just don't get any scores for them. But that just affects our participation rating. But that's neither here nor there. So from there, we'll move on to ELA achievement. And so you can see this a little bit better. So our overall achievement for ELA is good. You can see we are above where we were last year, but then keep in mind that only half our school took that test, but we are below where we were before. And so this is one of our UIP goals, is to increase this by 2 percentage points to go from 747 to 479. We always try to just go for 2 points. I think we can probably go higher than that. But I like to just stick it at 2 because it's like moving the Titanic. You know, you flip the wheel and it's just as hard to move that ship. So just a couple of percentage points, especially with achievement. So this is number one of our UIP goal, is to increase this. From there, this is our math growth, and this is cohort data. So this is a little bit of a jaded lens to look through because this is basically tracking students over time. So essentially, these are just our 6th grade kids over the last 3 years because nobody else is available for that. And then again, it's just such a small percentage, but even the way we still went down, which is not acceptable in my book. We went down quite a bit. So
have you seen numbers from district-wide on that? I know other schools have gone down a lot in math too.
Yeah. I haven't pulled the data from I've heard rumblings here and there that not everybody did as well on CMAS as they would have liked. There's a lot of encouragement coming out of 2021. Just because it was out of the pandemic and everybody thought we'd be really low, and we kind of scored about the same. But then last year, then you saw most people dip. Yeah. This is this is our ELA growth with cohort. So this is again the same, small percentage of kids. We did grow significantly here. The better thing to look at, in my opinion, is the baseline. So this is just our students who took that score. So you can see in math, we dropped pretty significantly. We went from a scale score of 55 down to a 47. And so this is our other UIP goal. I use the analogy in our PSP last that, what plant grows is the one that you water. And we did not water our math. We piloted Benchmark Advanced last year. And so we poured all of our eggs in that basket. We spent a ton of time with professional development, but our teachers did not focus as much on math. And you can see this is the reason why. And so this is our second UIP growth, is to raise this by 2 percentage points. I have a feeling we can get a lot higher than that, but I want to just kind of stick with 2. And then you can see here's the benefit of focusing everything on literacy, is we grew significantly from 48 to 69. And so this is that Benchmark Advanced growth. And so it's pretty significant there as far as our growth. And remember, our goal is always to have high growth, high achievement. From there, this is our iReady diagnostic for reading. And so this is more of the actionable data that we can use. And you can see here, this is all of our students. We typically take our CMAS in late April, but then we don't get the results back until close to the end of August, beginning of September. So it's really hard to be actionable data, where this data comes up for us instantly. We take this 3 times a year. And so this is our beginning of the year. So it's the fall diagnostic data. And so this is pretty significant for us. If you look at the tiers, so this green tier is students who are at or above grade level. The yellow is students who are below grade level. And then the red is students who are multiple grade levels below. And the reason why this is significant is because back last year, we were coming in off of the pandemic. We had 32% of our students were on or above grade level. Now we're starting the year off at 40%, which is a huge increase. That benchmark advance has really helped our students become prepared. So really pretty excited for year 2, and they have all that background knowledge. And then you also see the difference in our students going from 47% down to 41% of that below grade level. And typically you see a higher percentage of that yellow, because if you think about it, if you've got a brand new first grader coming into first grade, they should be below grade level because they have to learn all the first grade standards. And so that's fairly typical. So, and then our at-risk pretty much stays the same quite a bit. And I told PSP, and I'll tell you guys the same thing. Our overall goal is always to have 80% here, 10% here, 10% here. It's a pretty lofty goal. We've never achieved it, but it's always worth a shot. From there, here's our math goal. It's a little bit more rosy than our CMath score. As you can see, we started here with 23%, and now we're starting the year off at 28. And then we reduced this from 55 to 53, and then a little bit of a reduction there on our at-risk students in math. And again, this is one of our big focal points this year, is continue benchmark advance for literacy, but then also kind of rededicate ourselves to math. All right, any questions on data?
When did we start using Ready Math? Do you think it has anything to do with that, or you solely just think it's because we spent so much time on literacy?
I think Ready Math is not bad. We switched 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
I feel like it was recent.
Yeah, wasn't super long ago, but again, if you think about it, like all of our time, our PLCs were spent learning about literacy. We're piloting the program, and literacy is such a all-encompassing. So, for example, we spend close to 2 hours a day on literacy, and we spend about an hour a day on math. And so there's just such a large focus, and I think our teachers just, basically just kind of following the book for Ready Math, but really diving in on literacy. So again, if you don't focus on it, it's hard to do it.
Will that change this year?
Yep. Yeah.
Did the teachers feel the same way? Do they feel like it was because we spent so much time on literacy, or
I think they were pretty shocked with our drop in math. We went through all the data with our staff. They didn't really like it, but then you kind of saw the gears turning, like, okay, I probably could have done this differently. I probably could have done this differently. And then we restructured some of the things. Like I said, we changed our master schedule. We added our math interventionists. We changed how we do different things just to be able to not be in that same boat again.
Did they like Ready Math?
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do all of our feeder schools use Ready Math?
Yep,
All
for the first time.
districts,
Yep.
or
So just in our feeder. So the first time ever, all of our feeders every one of our feeders is benchmark advanced and also Ready Math. So that's going to be a benefit moving forward.
It's real similar to Go Math, where I was before. There's a lot to it, and so you kind of have to narrow it down for some of your groups, just because there's not enough time in the day to go through an entire session.
Yeah.
But I like it, and I'm learning how to put it in the time that we have.
Yeah.
I have a kid in Cherry Creek in the math club way down there too, so it's not just this. I don't want to take too much time, but the iPads that the kids use for their free time in class, is there a central technology person that decides what apps go on those?
Yeah, the district controls all of those pieces. And so we used to use it locally, but it's not that case anymore. The district then applies they basically put all these things on there. So we've already had to remove a couple of apps.
I'm not worried about removing.
Yeah.
I'm concerned with some of the math that I've seen in the lower grades that they're going to get burned out and hate math and put up walls. So I was wondering if there was a way that we could implement like some Greg Tang math games or some good math games in the iPad.
Sure.
To help build those foundational skills
Yeah.
that you need in math.
Yeah.
I mean, math is the only subject you've got to have the foundation to build.
Yeah, and we'll connect with Anya Zavadil. She's our STEAM teacher, but she's also our math interventionist, and she also was at the district level as a math coach for a long time. And so that's a great idea. We'll connect with her.
I can vouch for two Claire's coming for math Olympiad.
Oh, perfect. That's even better. Okay. All right. So from there, we have to do two more kind of agenda items. Number one is determine our spending priorities for the 2022-2023 school year. So in the past, it's almost always been small class size. Some of the other things that we've looked at is teacher retention. We've looked at technology. I'm trying to think what other one of our priorities, but again, it's really up to you guys as parents. What is it that you feel as though should be our budget priorities and where we spend our money? Class size?
I think it's,
Low class size and the wellness is amazing.
Yeah, class sizes and sufficient support staff. But I would say not so much technology anymore.
No.
We're fine at
Yes.
where we're at as far as technology, right?
It
Yeah.
was big for so many years.
Mr. Medina, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's good. I was talking with one of the parents in here. I thought there was going to be more people in here because they told me they were coming. But I think that my sense in this meeting is great. This is amazing. Everything that I heard in here, I have no idea. I'm like, how can you guys survive? So you guys are doing a great job, and it's amazing everything that you're doing, and all the data is amazing. My biggest concern for the school is safety. Has been always, and it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Like in the morning to drop off the kids, it's just like this is the most dangerous place in town. And it's amazing how parents can let the kid out of the other side when the other car is coming. It's just like, what are you thinking? Like, what's happening in here? And that is, I mean, that can be my kid, your kid, anybody, right? And it's really hard to control this, right? I understand, we receive those emails, we receive those over and over, but we don't get it, and include myself in there. Like having a parking in there, like in the mornings. Now the parents don't drop off the kids. They just park in there and they just don't move the car until the kids is inside. So at that point, the line is backing up to the street and the neighbors and it's just making very unsafe place. And I don't see that it's being taken care of.
Yeah, it's hard.
So
The school by my house is a lot scarier. They cross the street everywhere. It's so scary. Prairie crossing. Nobody uses a crosswalk.
And we met with Parker PD last year. We met with the town of Parker just to try to do some simple things. Number one was we try to have them add like a white stripe down there at our crosswalk, so cars would stop prior to our crosswalk, and they didn't want to do that. We tried to add speed bumps along Clark Farms Drive. Our latest one was to try to get a no parking sign within just the boundaries of our school, because what happens if you're in the carpool line is as you're going, cars then back up and there's nowhere place for them to go because the side is also lined with cars, and then cars park there, then kids get out there, then they're crossing the street like way out there in Clark Farms, they're coming up. So that was not effective. Our next plan is to try to get a line in the middle of the parking lot. So you've got two like designated lanes, so then people aren't like whipping out. And then our last problem, and this is the one that we've been working on the most, is we've got preschool has to come in, they have to park, and they have to get out in preschool. Because we have 3 preschools, and so they take up a huge amount of our parking. And so we try to get them to adjust their start and end time. We have not been successful with that so far. So those are our 3 solutions. But if you guys have any other solutions or you've got something else in mind, I am 100% all yours.
So my office is in Denver. I live in Parker, but I work in Denver. I'm a State Farm agent, and I sponsor 3 schools right now, right? And one of the worst one was the one close to my office in there, and it was like crazy, like people like 50, like speeding in school, and it's just like. So anyway, they asked me to participate in some fundraisers and everything, and we did everything. And I became friend with one of the police that is in the school. And he was also very frustrated and, not getting support. So we got together about 5 fathers and the police. And I'm really proud we made a good difference. There is no more parking in there. And I'm volunteering myself. If that's the need in the school, I can be here in the mornings. But that's going to create conflicts, right?
Yeah.
So if I have a police with me, when you mess up with people's pocket, they learn. We all learn, right? So I'm not saying to give tickets or anything, but that's what we did at the first quarter.
Yeah.
Is that what you did? You gave tickets?
Yeah, but they didn't pay for.
Okay.
But it was like a warning.
Like a warning and.
But they have to show up at school ready to pay. And they, he said, okay, well, sign up in here. We won't charge you this time, but would you please not do that again? And in 3 months, everybody's just dropping kids. Don't stay there. So we gotta do something.
Yeah.
And that work in the school, I don't know if it will work in here. I think it will because it's a really short space,
Yeah.
And we have teachers in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as your kids is out, he's safe.
Yeah.
And it's okay to make 50 steps.
Yeah.
To get to the door, right?
I wonder if you gave out expectation tickets. These are our expectations, like for this,
Yeah.
like we don't stop here.
One thing at the previous school, so this is our second year at Cherokee Trail. We were in the Chicago area beforehand, and they were very, very strict about the drop-off procedure. We would get a map, an aerial map with arrows and don't stand here and don't stand here. It seemed excessive, but as we know, it's really not excessive because the parents need it. And that really, and just hustling people through.
Yeah.
And I know, I didn't realize that that's a staff issue, and I don't know how that would work, if there would be people available to even do that. But there were staff up and down the whole drive.
Yeah.
And just hustling people through, like you said, like move them along.
Yeah, we're coming from Fox Creek in Highlands Ranch, and they have a system like that.
Mhm.
They need to drop off the kid. You cannot park. You cannot get out and hug your kid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was
You
just
have to
drop
do that at home.
Yeah.
And was there a
Everything's ready
process
to
for
go.
kids that had disabilities or kids who
It may be,
was?
it may be one or two. That was a parking where the kids have to, those are special units in there. And that's obvious they need attention, right? But we have only a few of those in here, right? So we can just come out with something like that.
Yeah, but I can do that. Yeah, I've got an aerial map and I can put together arrows and stuff on it, and then I can do one of my CTE videos and talk through that thing. I can do that. And then I can call Parker PD and see if they're willing. I know they have one traffic officer, but we've got our SRO. So yeah, I can do both of those.
I like the idea of inviting this only because some parents are not kind. Like I often do carpool duty, and if I have to say something, I have had people say very unkind things to me, the parents, and
Well,
hard.
in the morning, I'm the one who drop off the kids, and the things I see is I see a mom getting off the car and just confronting the other one. I mean, what do we have to get into? But it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please move your guys so I can just get out to go to work?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be late. You're making me late.
Yeah.
So I'm now frustrated. And now, and she get off the car, and I was like, ooh, this is gonna be an interesting part if we don't do something about it.
Josh, in regards to the preschool times, so I know there's 3 preschools here.
Mhm.
The preschool class that my son is in, we have the offset times.
Mhm.
I have friends with children in the other 2, and they do not have offset
Mhm.
times. Why is there this disconnect?
You said in preschool C?
Yeah.
Yeah, so preschool C technically is housed in our building, but they're connected with another preschool. So technically, the 2 preschools is B and A,
Mhm.
and then C is kind of its own thing. So C has its own different time, but A and B have a different time. Now, why they're not on the same time, I have no idea.
Okay.
And I would love to have a great answer for you, but I don't. I try to move all their times, again, 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, but then they said it's a transportation issue, but then we don't have any preschool kids on the buses.
Right.
So it's interesting. But I actually didn't know that preschool C was on a different time.
Yes.
I'll look into that too.
They're dismissed at 3:25.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the drop off's the same unanimously among the A, B, and C
Yeah.
classes at 12:45. Well, in the afternoon, that is. But I can attest last year, the pickup time was, I think, earlier than A and B as well.
Mhm.
5 minutes.
Interesting. Okay, look into that too.
Is that just something Sharon does, though? I was guessing, but it's just her that says. Oh, well, it's not
8:30.
8:45, so it's not so crazy.
When they start with their.
No,
when they
no.
like,
But I knew
Line
that
up
she.
as early as they.
Yeah.
Right, no, I just wondered, like,
All right.
when all the.
So,
those happen.
I have our budget school priorities as class size, support staff, and school safety. Good?
I'm good with that, yes.
Okay. All right. So then the other kind of housekeeping piece, but then I'll turn it over to Ashley, is just develop the meeting schedule of the year. And so we have 4 meetings a year. And so our next one will probably be November. I like to match it up with PSP time. And so what I'll do is I'll just shoot you guys, just for interest of time, I'll shoot you an email with the different dates and you can just say yay or nay. And again, you don't have to be here. I'll always have the virtual option. So if you need to be at home or be with your families, whatever, you can always do that piece too. So it's typically November, February, and then April, May. They're fine. Okay. It's up to you now.
Right, the teachers gave me a list of things they wanted me to share for teacher updates. Everybody has either just or is in the process of finishing their first unit from Benchmark Advance, and they've been working through their Ready Math curriculum as well. The first unit of Benchmark Advance is life science, and so in science, they've been doing their life science standards for their grade level. And then our STEAM teacher has also been focusing on life science for this first quarter of the year. She's moving into digital citizenship for this next few weeks, and so she wanted to make sure you all knew that. We just had the fun run, which was great. 6th grade just went to outdoor ed, which is always, I'm sure Tanya could talk about that. Really fun. And then the last thing is that, as you heard, we've been completing this Classroom 180 course, and a component of that is talking about having a space for students in your room to calm down. And so each classroom teacher has been given the materials to create their own calming space or calming corner in their classroom. And so everybody's in the process of setting that up.
Are those supposed to have a time limit?
We have the students, we put a 3-minute time limit on there because we've had, we've talked to the teachers, and part of that Classroom 180 curriculum teaches them to know if students are really dysregulated or they're doing some work avoidance. And so those are the 2 different pieces. So, Mrs. Dunkers is over there. And so
the ones that are truly dysregulated,
correct.
What happens to them after the 3 minutes?
They have an opportunity to go, because sometimes if they are going multiple times during the day, then there needs to be a stronger intervention. So our next kind of phase of that is we are going to create kind of a space outside of the classroom for kids to re-regulate. I think what we're going to do is we're going to retrofit the nurse/AP/extra office next to mine into kind of a calming space for kids who just are really, really struggling. It's going to take a while to get, because we have some students, it takes a while for them to re-regulate. So that's kind of the next phase with that. We wrote a grant. So every one of our teachers got weighted blankets. They got fidgets. They've got this kind of whole little toolbox. So every classroom then has some of those pieces in there.
I've seen the
In the 3-minute timer.
Yeah, 3-minute timer.
I just didn't know where the 3 minutes came.
Yeah. And you can see, like I said, that's where they gravitate to. They love it. Yeah.
Those were our teacher updates.
Yeah. So then we have the DAC is a district accountability committee. And so Deb Ormsby is our representative, but she couldn't make it tonight. So I just printed out what their agenda was from their last meeting. And that's just part of your packet. So you can kind of go through there, and then hopefully she'll be here next time to be able to update. And then other than that, if there's anything else that's kind of buzzing the community, I always like to know if there's other things going on.
Yes, I'll give you some feedback.
Cool.
So, I'm in talking with other parents, loving the check-in process with scanning the IDs, getting a badge with the name on it.
Okay.
Just keeping up with the consistency of that is something that I hear parents want, myself included. Also too, the lightning delays.
Huh.
I heard feedback from a few different parents how it was kind of chaotic. They weren't caring for the procedure. I don't know what the solution to that would be, but felt like it was, everybody was just in and out, and it was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
From a safety perspective.
Yeah.
So I'm in the mobile, so I missed all the whole hubbub in the building. But how does it look in the building?
So just reflecting on when this happened a month ago, we walked in, there was teacher presence at the door. That was definitely noticed. We went to the classrooms. Now, oftentimes the teacher will know who the parents are, but if not, maybe checking an ID, and then, ensuring that the parents are walking out with their child, and that's on the parents, which we know we can't control all the time. but because it was just a heavy traffic
Mhm.
and it was, wet and it was chaotic.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know the easy solution to that
Sure.
because logistically it's just difficult.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking through past stuff,
Mhm.
like where I was before, where they, I don't know if it would help anything, but they had grade level spots within the gym. Like first grade, second grade, third grade, and they all sat there.
Yeah.
And we had, teachers came with clipboards.
Yeah.
With the student's name, and then the parents signed them out. And then, so they would come through the front of the building and then they would exit out the gym doors. So it would kind of be like a walkthrough.
And
I don't know if that would.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because that reminded me from a past school that we were at, the way that we did it there. Everybody had, you got it was a cardstock, fluorescent cardstock. It had your child's name on it. You would go through the drive-up line. Teachers were out front with walkie-talkies. They would call in and be like, we're here for Geneva Howard, Mrs. Scott's class, and it had the teacher's name on there as well. And they would call, and then the child would come to the car, and we'd go. The line took longer that day, but people weren't getting out.
Mhm.
People weren't going in the school.
But adding to that, let's say that we have like 4 cones, those orange cones, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we saw Gigi Medina, cone 1, Jolie Mark, cone 2 and 3. So we have 4 cars going and flowing, not only 1, but just 4 or 5 cones. I think that we mobilize the lines pretty quick and really organized. So if we have somebody up front in there, so with the name, okay, so Medina is coming, so I can go with the walkie-talkie, Medina, cone 3. So she's already walking in there, so she just needs to be picked up and just go.
And it was a pain in the butt when parents didn't have their sign because the expectation was to have it up in the window. You didn't even need to roll down. The teacher was ready. They were looking for it.
Well, and I think part of the problem is not wanting to send a child out in that, but we're sending all these adults. I don't know, like what the.
We do
know
have
what I mean?
some staff members protective of their own safety around the weather, so we'd have to consider
Yeah.
that too.
So that's, that's sending a kid out into the storm or whatever.
But I think what you guys are talking about is more like after school stuff, like just simple after school, like the radioing after school. It doesn't necessarily have to be lightning dismissal. It could be anytime after school.
anytime.
Okay, that's what I thought you were talking about.
But that primarily was done for the lightning dismissal.
Yeah.
Before, when we did that, children had their own spaces. So, 4th grade would line up here, 3rd grade, and you would just roll through the line and then they would look for you and jump in.
You might be able to do something with our pods, being able to have some sort of, we'll look at our systems for that. That's not a bad idea.
So I wasn't at the last lightning dismissal. My husband picked up and he said, it was freaking awesome. They opened up all the doors. I walked right in, grabbed the kids, got out. It was the best lightning dismissal ever. And I was like, great. Because usually it is a nightmare, like everyone trying to park and come in. And he's like, it was great.
Ashley's got post-traumatic for her first time. Ashley's our professional learning specialist, and so she's not an administrator. And so I was at a district meeting for our first one ever, and it was the same day we had a tornado drill. It was a tornado and a lightning dismissal, and I thought she's gonna have a heart attack.
I thought I might have had a heart attack. I was like, Fred, and a tornado drill, and a lightning dismissal. And Josh wasn't here. I was like,
That's right. We had kids
second
crying because
day
they're like,
of
we're gonna get killed in a tornado.
Last
Yeah.
year, that was horrible.
It was not our finest moment.
Well, Chris says you did a wonderful job.
With this, what are the safety concerns? Just people entering the building or the kids going with the wrong person?
It's twofold. So essentially with a lighting dismissal, you're opening up every access point we have in the building. We have somebody at the door, but then at the same time for lighting dismissal, you're asking all of the parents who typically don't pick up to come inside and pick up their kids. So we sometimes have to dismiss, like, for example, you've got parent A who is neighbors to parent B, C, and D, and they're going to pick up everybody because they're the only one that's available. And so it's very challenging for us to manage those pieces. And so theoretically, you could have anybody walk in the building and say, oh yeah,
That's my kid.
that's my kid. Come on with me.
Well, I just didn't know which fear it was, if it's a fear of the wrong kid going to the wrong place or
Mhm.
a fear of a shooter coming in, or what the fear was.
I think it's probably, well, again, I can't speak,
All of the above.
Yeah, probably all the
So I was
above.
thinking if they're all lined up by cones in the gym, then that's one big room with all the kids. If it was a shooter, I'd rather they were all in classrooms that could be locked.
I think with the answer, the solution may be just something with the pods to be able to have some sort of piece within the pods to be able to control that sort of thing. I'll have to look at that.
So I know it's just that you're making the cuts in there. It's gonna be a lot. Please call me. I
Yeah.
can help.
Yeah.
We can organize. I can help.
Yeah, I'll definitely. Well, with the before and after school with the police, I might have to take you up on that offer for sure, because I like that idea too. Because like I said, that's what you hear the problem every single year. It's always the same, and it hasn't even snowed yet. Once it snows, it's only going to get worse.
I will say that our school has improved tremendously from like 8 years ago. Like now we have the crossing guards and like this has been an issue every single year, and every single year I feel like it gets a little better, but I know I don't use the carpool line because I agree it's a mess.
Fun fact is our parking lot used to be closed. It was closed. It used to have, that's why the chains out. They used to close, and so the pickup drop off was in the neighborhood. Over here is just that little circle, or it was outside school grounds. And so that was one of the first few things I did when I was principal, just open up the carpool line to get a lot more, because that's not our space. And those poor neighbors over there had people, and then we had kids running across the street. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, so it has gotten better, but
But we always have ways to go, because I
I
said,
agree, guys.
we're sitting in about 8.5 minutes in the
Times are
afternoon.
terrible.
And then again, I've got caught in that myself. And so I'm sitting there, just trying to get back to be at school. And I'm like 4 miles from school, sitting in the back of the car. Then, the parents are looking at me like, why are you in this line? Yeah, I get it. All right. What else? What else is out there?
Nothing that I can think of right now.
Okay.
I do fundraisers for those 3 schools. I'll be happy to drop 1 or 2 if we can just work something out again as well. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
With the right department or whatever.
Sure.
And just come up with something.
Well, fundraising queen is right there on the end of the table.
Because I raised like last year probably like $3,000 for 1 school. So yeah, we can talk more.
Yeah, for sure.
Sell these kids as art.
I know.
I'm going to leave that for Mrs. Dunker, because she's going to be very happy.
She will love it.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming. Mrs. Alvarez brought some donuts and some cookies. If you want to take some home to your kids or not, just depends on your eating preferences, because it's 7:40 in our house. There's no sweets now, but it is what it is. Thanks you guys for coming.
Thank you for the info.
Is that what it is?
It is. Actually, on behalf of the parents, I'm sorry for the jerks that you speak to in the microphone.
Well, thank you. Most are very kind, but when you have one who's not, it like really feels
I don't know if this is
dang.
gonna be important. This